Our sixth video will cover Scrooge's childhood and the themes and emotions connected with these experiences of the past that come obviously from the ghost of Christmas past that I described in the last video. So we start this section with a triple as Scrooge is walking and recognises every gate, post and tree there. So we have a positive description of a scene here, created with a variety of effects, the lists that are being used, the use of animals. Notice the sort of very positive language, sort of trotting. We have some very emotive, positive language. This idea of great spirits shouting, merry music. Look at that alliteration and that metaphor there, and the crisp air laughing to hear it. Personification. This is a very positive memory. But as the spirit points out, they are but shadows of the things that have been. They have no consciousness of us. The idea of shadows still, and obviously just implying that Scrooge cannot affect these are memories, and Scrooge cannot change them. The word jocund there, which means very merry, very positive, very happy. And Scrooge himself is filled with gladness. He rejoiced to see them. Look at the rhetorical questions here. Why did his cold eye glisten? His heart leap up. Again, some very positive emotive language there, and a metaphor, the idea of his heart leaping up, a personification actually. Lots of rhetorical questions here, and almost a sarcastic narrative voice, an irony being used. What was Merry Christmas to Scrooge? Out upon Merry Christmas, what good had it ever done to him? So these are echoing Scrooge's words from earlier. The narrator is sort of throwing them back at Scrooge. So the reader can identify here that Scrooge's own words are false, that his idea of criticising Christmas is not really true based on his own past. The first description of Scrooge is very negative. The word solitary is used. The verb neglected is left there. The idea of being unwanted is emphasised for Scrooge. We have some short sentences for Scrooge's initial reaction to show the sort of harshness and the sorrow. Scrooge said he knew it, very blunt. And again, very, very short here. And he sobbed. And a very emotive verb there, the idea of sobbing and showing Scrooge's sadness once again, which again is quite surprising. Scrooge is not somebody that usually shows any emotion, let alone very sort of distressed emotions such as this. Very out of character for him. So then they go to the schoolhouse, and the description of the schoolhouse is very unwelcoming. It shows the negative atmosphere, a lack of warmth and comfort for the children, and therefore for Scrooge. One of broken fortunes, walls were damp, mossy, broken, decayed, overrun, an ancient state, dreary, again that idea of darkness. Another triple here, poorly furnished, cold and vast, that idea of the cold, that metaphor again. A chilly bareness, again that metaphor of coldness. Not much candlelight, not much to eat. So this is creating an atmosphere that Scrooge's life is not a very positive one. This continues. Again, Dickens liked to exaggerate his scenarios to create a world, a setting that mimicked the ideas and atmosphere of the characters, of the story, of the themes. And here we have a long, bare, melancholy room, another triple there, especially those words bare and melancholy, almost personifying the room and the sadness within the room. And then we have a feeble fire. We have a lonely boy, Scrooge. We need a feeble fire, some alliteration, personification again, to show the fire is so weak and unable to provide warmth, just like Scrooge and Scrooge's life at this time. Again, we have that Scrooge is weeping, his poor, forgotten self as he used to be. He is being reminded of his past and he's becoming emotional about it. Dickens then uses some anaphora to continue to exaggerate and emphasise the negative. Not a latent echo, not a squeak and scuffle, not a drip. There's nothing here. There's no comfort. There's no protection. There's nobody here for Scrooge. Then a strange thing happens in the story, which might be a bit confusing at first. The boy is reading, and a man in foreign garments, real and distinct, stood outside the window with an axe in his belt. Who is this? Well, these are imaginary characters. These are characters from books. In this case, we have Ali Baba, who's from the Thousand and One Arabian Nights, and we have other stories of Aladdin, of the genie, of Robinson Crusoe. These very famous fictional characters. And why is this being done? Well, These are the imaginings of a young Scrooge whose love for literature are coming to life. And Scrooge is excited about this. He is emotive, he is excited. Notice the alliteration and the words exclaimed in ecstasy here, and listing everything. Very short, sharp, excited exclamations. Hello, hoop, hello. He is excited to see these things, somewhere between laughing and crying. He's all over the place. And a sort of statement here to suggest it would have been a surprise to his business friends in the city, to show that he is very unlike his usual self. And obviously, this also ties into the idea that Scrooge has no real friends at the time. He's all alone, and so he only has the books for company. Then we have Scrooge's regret creeping in, and this is something that keeps coming up, and sort of a drip feed of regret from Scrooge, because Dickens wants to show that he is changing. He is beginning to realise. He says, "I wish," and then breaks off. Note that break off is quite important. It's just his pause. He's finding it difficult to do this. He's muttering. He's putting his hands in his pocket, looking about him, a triple there, which shows the hesitancy, but it's too late. He's sort of a bit of self-awareness there, which is surprising. The spirit inquires, what's the matter? It's his mission, remember, to push Scrooge and change. Nothing, repetition, nothing. There was a boy singing a Christmas carol. I'd like to have given him something. That's all. That's what he says there. That's all. That's quite important as well, because it's saying that, even something small he didn't do that he maybe thought he could have done. He is regretful. And here, and that's from stave 1, if you remember, there was a boy and he seized a ruler and scared him off. The ghost smiles thoughtfully, which again is quite indicative to show that he is achieving its goal here, its secret intentions. And they move forward in time, the room becomes darker and dirty again, things aren't getting better, cracks, fragments of plaster, and the boy is growing up, but it's still the same time, it's still Christmas, we're sticking to that festive ideology. Note now, he is walking up and down despairingly. We get a word mournful, anxious. There's tension being built here. And the tension is broken when the little girl comes in, who is Fan, the sister of Scrooge and the mother of Fred, the nephew from stave 1. She is incredibly loving. Note the emotive language. She's darting, putting arms around the neck, kissing him, addressing him. Repetition, dear, dear. Repetition here is all home, home, home. That idea of excitement. She is full of life and vivacity, in contrast to Scrooge. So we've got an implication of home life here, with father being kind now, so much kinder than he used to be, that home's like heaven. Similarly then, father has asked them to come and spend Christmas together. And again, this is showing that maybe Scrooge's childhood was difficult, but there's a couple of things to note here. If the father can change from being not a very nice man to kinder, so can Scrooge. Also, there's contextually, Dickens had a difficult childhood. His father was sent to prison, so there may be some connection to that here, of him feeling like he was abandoned by his father. In real life, however, Dickens was not sent to school. He had to work in a factory for children to earn money for the family after his father was put into prison for debt. Still very excited, lots of positive language, again, that exaggeration, childish eagerness, clasp, laughed, repetition of laughed again. Then we have Scrooge's schoolmaster. He is ferocious. He is dreadful. Again, it's showing that he is leaving this sort of negative life behind and moving into something positive. School was harsh for Scrooge, but he is getting something positive. He's getting cake, and things are moving to a better life, just like Scrooge could possibly now. And the ghost points out that she was delicate. She had a large heart. Again, that very positive, emotive idea there of a large heart. And Scrooge, again, is very positive here. You're right. I'll not gainsay it, spirit. Basically, I'll not say no. That is true. And then the spirit points out that she died at some point as an adult. And they remember the one child she had, Fred, the nephew. Note Scrooge seemed uneasy here and answers briefly. He can't say much more than yes, possibly showing he is beginning to realise the importance of family and how he's been treating his nephew. And that is obviously very important as we begin to see how Scrooge is changing and regretting a few things about what he's done already in the very start of stave 2. I'll stop there today because in the next section Dickens moves Scrooge forward in time, and we can have a look at the contrast in attitude to his first employer, Fezziwig.